You see this giant circle right here? That's the entire world. Now, you see that tiny green dot right there? That's your ideal customer profile. Hey, what up? My name is Sky, like the big blue sky, and today I'm gonna show you how to build your ideal customer profile, or ICP. First, we're gonna cover the fundamentals of building your ICP. Next, we'll go through some of the secret targeting hacks that I've used to dive deep into an ICP to find prospects who are not only a great fit for your product or service, but also have a need for it now, so you can get super high conversion rates on your campaigns. Then I'm gonna give you an actionable exercise you can use to build your ICP today. And then finally, next week, depending on when you're watching this video, I'm gonna walk you through how to use that exercise to build laser targeted lists in Apollo and Sales Navigator. All right, let's dive in. So to lay a really strong foundation for your ICP, there's only 4 things that you need to define. And the first one you need to define is the industry, right? So do you sell into healthcare, hospitality, agency, SaaS? There's so many different options you can choose from, but regardless of whether or not you sell into one specific niche, or you can sell into a ton of different niches, when it comes to building high converting cold prospecting campaigns, you need to just pick one for each campaign and be as specific as possible. This is a non-negotiable because it's the foundation from which you're gonna build all of your messaging from. So if you try to talk to everybody in one campaign, you're actually gonna end up talking to no one. So if you work with multiple industries or multiple niches and you're watching this video now, you can that's totally fine. But for the sake of building cold prospecting campaigns, you're gonna need multiple campaigns. You're just gonna pick one to define and build your campaign around that singular one, and then just layer on and build multiple campaigns. The second thing you need to define is the company size, right? So do you sell to solopreneurs or Fortune 500 companies? This is important because the size of the company that you sell to a lot of times is gonna determine the job title that you wanna reach out to, right? If you work with smaller companies, it might make sense to reach out directly to the CEO or someone on the executive team, whereas if you're reaching out to really large Fortune 500 companies, the executives are not only gonna be harder to reach, but they also might not make some of the day-to-day tactical decisions that are gonna involve potentially buying your product or service. So you're gonna wanna reach out lower on the chain of command than, say, reaching out to like the CEO of McDonald's. The third thing you wanna define is the job title. This one is pretty straightforward and we pretty much already covered it, so I'm gonna drive on past this one. But if you do have questions or you want some advice on who you should specifically reach out to for your company, feel free to drop a comment down below or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you about your use case in specific. There's a link to my LinkedIn profile down in the description below. And finally, the fourth thing you want to define for the foundation of your ICP is the geography. So where in the world are your prospects? Do you sell specifically to the US? Do you sell internationally? That's up to you to decide. That's it when it comes to actually laying the foundation for your ICP. And there are of course more things that you can use to refine that ICP, and there are more things that we are going to use to build really high quality lists. But to start out with, those 4 things are going to get you pointed in the right direction. Now let's move on to some of the secret targeting hacks that I've used to find the best prospects out of the bunch that have the highest chances of converting for your offer. And I like to bucket these into 2 buckets. Bucket number 1 is internal observations, and we call them internal observations because these are observations that you would make about your ideal customer profile that would make them a good fit for your product or service or would justify why you're reaching out. Bucket number 2 are external observations. So these are things like industry-specific trends or macroeconomic trends. Let's talk about some examples for both of these. Some examples of internal observations might be a new leader in the company or the department that you sell into, right? Because a lot of times a new person coming into the organization means new priorities, and it could be a good opportunity to see if your product or service aligns with those new priorities. Second one is fundraising. Third one is a missed quarter. So if they're a public company, you can look up their quarterly financials to find who's going to be the best fit based on some of those specific metrics or need. Or you can personalize your outreach using some of that information. Internal observation number 4 is a new job listing. And if you want to be really ninja about this, I recommend checking out my video here where I talk about how to build completely automated campaigns that allow you to pull specific information from the job postings to make your outreach more relevant and more personalized. Now, all the internal observations that we just covered can also be thought of as triggers. These are events that happen inside of a company that might make them a better fit for your product or your service. But the last observation is my favorite because 99% of people don't know how to use this one. And it's not actually a singular event or trigger, but more so a change over time. So internal observation number 5 is a department change over time. So let me give you an example of how we've used this. A couple years ago when I was starting an agency, I was trying to sell into SaaS companies. The campaigns we were running were super broad. We were spraying and praying all over the place, and we were not seeing a lot of success with our campaigns. So after a little while of banging our head against the wall, we took a step back to try to think about what might be an indicator that a software company has a quality product and was already starting to see some organic success, was likely to have money to invest into a service like ours, but hadn't yet invested into building their own sales team internally. So we thought, okay, they've got to be growing because that would indicate that they probably had money and they were delivering value to their clients, but that growth couldn't be happening in the sales department yet, and that was key. So what we did is we ended up going into Sales Navigator, and we specifically targeted software companies of a certain size whose engineering departments had grown by 50% or more, but whose sales departments had a max of 1 person. And boom, instantly overnight, our campaign conversion rates skyrocketed, all because we had a better pool of companies that we were targeting. And what was really funny and super insightful was that all the companies who did respond back positively and wanted to meet with us, they would all say, wow, this was perfect timing. We were just thinking about investing into our sales and our growth. Okay, now let's move on to some external observations. And again, the subcategories here are things like industry and macroeconomic trends. So, okay, what's an example of a really simple industry trend? Let's say you have a lead gen service that targets agencies. Right when TikTok was starting to blow up, it would have been a great time to target TikTok agencies. Not just because there was a need there, but also because those companies would have been great clients for you because it would have been really easy to align your offer with that industry trend and deliver massive results to those companies. Now, what about a macroeconomic trend? Let's say you work with software companies, and we'll use the last 12 months as an example. The tech industry in specific got hit really hard. There was a lot of uncertainty in the market. Software companies were holding on to cash, and they just wanted to survive whatever was to come. But not all software companies were hurting, so which ones were they? Maybe a good direction or a good segment of the market to target would have been companies that are just generally more recession-proof, maybe in the healthcare industry or government. So as long as you could service those industries and you could deliver good results to companies like that, they might have been a good target for you because they wouldn't be feeling the same degree of financial strain, and so they could invest into a service like that. So I hope you're starting to see how creative and specific you can get with your lists when you start to think through your targeting with some of these lenses. But I don't just want you to think about your targeting. I want you to be able to build really high quality lists. So let's take a look at an exercise that you can do right now. So, okay, what you're looking at here is an ICP exercise, or an ideal customer profile exercise. This document, it is linked in the description down below so you can snag it, but don't try and request to edit access to this document, please. I'm not going to give it to you, but if you just go ahead and make a copy, you'll have your own version of it and you can make edits to it. So, okay, as you look through this sheet, what you'll find is that a lot of those foundational criteria that we talked about at the beginning of the video are in here. We've got the job title. We've got the industry. We've got the company size. But we've also got some other filters in here as well that we haven't talked about yet. But some of this stuff is actually going to be really insightful. And so, if you do end up going through this and using this, what I want to preface this with is that the more careful thought and the more data you input into this exercise, the better your results are going to be, or the more targeted your lists are going to be. And some of this stuff you might not have really considered before, but some of the stuff like, okay, some of the keywords. When you go into a database like Apollo or Sales Navigator, it can be really useful to have some of these very specific industry keywords to start to refine the list down little by little, whether it be at the contact level or at the company level. So as you go, I'll explain who you want to pull here in just a second, but you're going to be looking at LinkedIn profiles or websites of your ideal customers. You're going to be pulling keywords from there and dropping them into this sheet. But also what I want you to consider is like how long these folks have been in a specific function or been in their specific role. And this is fun because I did this exercise a couple years ago, and what we ended up finding in our company is that the clients who got the best results from us and who stayed with us the longest had been in business for at least 5 years. So they were companies who were a little bit more established, they'd figure some things out internally, and they were ready to just aggressively pursue growth as opposed to new companies that were still trying to figure themselves out. Okay, as you go through here, I want you to look at this through the lens of either your dream clients or your best clients in your business right now. So let's break those apart real quick. So if you currently have a business, you've got a bunch of clients, you likely know who are the best clients that you have. So who do you enjoy working with the most? That's a very valid criteria to have. Which clients have stayed with you the longest? Or which ones have the greatest lifetime value, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to think about who is the entry point of contact? Who did I talk to initially to bring them on, start the relationship and bring them on as a client? I want you to find their LinkedIn profile and I want you to pull 5 to 10 of those people, put them in here. And then I want you to complete this exercise. Fill it in to the best of your ability with as much data as possible. And then next week, I'm going to show you to take this exercise and build really high quality lists in a database. But let's say you don't have a current book of business. You're just starting out. Or maybe you've got a couple clients, but they're not really who you want to work with. I want you to think about this from a perspective of your dream clients. So as you envision who would you absolutely love to work with, find 5 to 10 of those examples, drop them in here, and fill it out to the best of your ability. So okay, that's all I got for you today. If you found this video valuable, please hit the like and subscribe button below. It helps the channel out a lot. And selfishly, my goal here is to raise the standard for cold outreach and give everyone the skills and the resources they need to grow their business regardless of their circumstances. And if you're watching this video in June of 2023 or beyond, then the next video for how to use this exercise to build a list should already be up. But if not, and you're following along live, I appreciate your time and I will see you in the next video.